Yeah.
Because each team now is almost like an NBA team, like almost like a team could be worth $1 billion or something now. And you've got investors coming in, multiple investors
Ryan
coming.
Reynolds.
Yeah.
And all. That's a huge brand, the Andretti name.
I don't know what year they could come in, and they got the team saying, we don't want you to come in. Like, how do you think that's going to end up?
This is the Bachelor Proof podcast with your host, Chris James.
Normally you would sit here, I believe.
That's normally my seat.
Yeah.
I know, I'm actually
I'm an imposter.
You're not an imposter. You're just, we have the right accent. I'm actually just looking at the studio from a different angle, realizing that it does have a different look.
Okay. Better, worse? What do you think?
I actually like my seat because I get distracted by the people. Yeah. Suddenly people put their, faces up against the glass, don't they? It's
yeah,
fun.
and that's actually why I chose to sit here, because I didn't like the guests that are coming on. It would distract them.
Yeah,
and
totally.
like here, you can just be people pulling stupid faces and stuff like that, and you act as if nothing is going along, but it's going to throw the guest off.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you, how easy or hard so you do a podcast here called Drive to Win. How did that happen? How did that?
Well, a little bit of a coincidence, really. I have a company, and we called Talk Media Group, and we do the live streams for Pebble Beach and events like that. So, and I host Pebble Beach, not the main concourse, but the sort of the show around it.
Well, actually, filming it and stuff.
We film it.
Oh wow, I didn't know.
Broadcast it and everything.
Wow.
So with my Tommy Kendall's another race driver, and a guy called Jason Jacobson, who brilliant producer, and so we've done that for a few years now. And the Wynn guys had approached Pebble Beach and said, "Hey, anyone we should talk to for their concours to sort of help them." And so I came here for a meeting with Jason, and it was really ostensibly to talk about the concours. And I had a little podcast, just a passion project called Life with Legends, me interviewing my heroes, racing heroes. And one of them knew about it and said, "Oh, have you seen our $6 million podcast studio?" and I went, "No." So I came down here and met Jeremiah, met everybody. And I was like, "Do you have a racing show?" "No." I was like, "Okay." So 3 weeks later, we had a Formula One show.
How did you put it together so quickly?
Well,
I guess because if you're a media, then you started.
Also, put it together quickly. Also, I come from the background of racing and race sponsorships. So, it's so many of these projects are funded, as you know, by performance.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to get any performance.
Right.
So you got to do it yourself.
True.
But, in the racing world, just think there's lots of cars at the back of the grid that have sponsors on. Yeah. And they're not being sold on just winning races. It's about the thing, the package. So that's what I put together. And the Wynn guys, I've got to say the marketing team here
they liked it.
Absolutely on top of it, because their investment in Ultimate Race Week, which started last year from the concours through to Netflix Cup with the golf, the red carpet event, Lewis Hamilton having pop-ups. I mean, they were invested, almost like the host hotel.
Yeah.
So it was just a perfect fit. And pretty much a year ago now we started.
Who came up with the name Drive to Win?
Well, it was a bit of a group decision. It was like going back, when you're trying to name something.
Did you think it was cheesy at first, being from the UK? Oh, that sounds a bit cheesy. Or did you like it?
Until the check came through, right? So, it was also
winning.
I think Jeremiah might have had a lot to do with the name. He's raising his hand.
Jeremiah
is our producer.
He's a producer here,
and he came up with a name. But I think it was also that we were investing in a name that, if the Wynn hadn't got involved, I could have used Drive to Win, right? WIN. So from a phonetic point of view, I was one thing, but it's just amazing. I keep pinching myself about coming in here to do this weekly show,
right?
Being a part of what the Wynn do.
Yeah,
it's quite extraordinary, actually.
It is. Like, I don't even know how I know how I found out about this place, but when I went in and did the first podcast here, which I think was the first video podcast that I had done, I said, it's like going first class. You can't go back.
You can't go back. You look around. I've done a lot of live TV, and this is as though we're in a TV studio.
Yeah.
So it's quite remarkable. And I do think that even though podcasts are so audio based, in the multimedia platforms.
Probably get more views across the audio side.
But if people do want to watch it, as I say for them, it's made for TV if you want to watch it.
Right.
And you can watch it on YouTube. And I think it's, my advice to anyone, and, I'm trying to take my own advice, is brands have especially their agencies, have a certain level, an expectation on professionalism and appearance and production value. And absolutely, you and I could be doing this in our pajamas from our basement.
Yeah, from a different country as well.
From a different country doesn't mean anything. But when it comes to actually representing companies and getting the right attention, you have to do it like this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, as you say, this is like first class.
It is. I think maybe would this be a frustrating thing? Like being in Vegas, you think like, oh, you could get all the guests in the world, so fly to Vegas. But when most people are here in Vegas, probably when it comes to racing or whatever, they're here to race, and so they've got very little time. Booking guests for the show, is that the hardest, easiest thing, or?
I had no idea it was going to be so miserable, actually, trying to do it. In the beginning, last year, I was doing it myself totally, and there would be times on a Monday night my guests hadn't locked in for the next morning.
Right.
And you're going, holy cow, this is going to be a monologue. I always have people in reserve, like my dad. I was like, Dad, you're going to be on the show. Just, but this year, working with, I've got a really great PR guy that actually used to work with Zach Brown from McLaren, and he knows how the sort of the language of the PR people in race teams.
Yeah,
he knows how to communicate to them, has good relationships. Super hard to get drivers. Last year we had Valtteri Bottas actually twice, and Yuki Tsunoda, which was, obviously they're running for teams near the back. Bottas is an amazing driver, but it was great. And then we got Bottas in here in person during Grand Prix week, which just changed the whole atmosphere. There's been 100 people outside the window watching.
That'd be dope.
It was really, really cool. And exactly, you see, you get distracted by it in your seat. But getting the guests is, it's a sort of a word of mouth thing, isn't it? That when they see it, when they see the social media, it's a bit of FOMO. I think you can start to get some traction. Yeah. But I got to say, the craziest thing about Formula One is the time restraints or the time obligations, actually, of the drivers. If you think they have to race the car, there's all that pressure. They have the sponsor liabilities and obligations, which go on all week. If they're racing in their home country, like Zhu Ganyu was this weekend, he was in China. I mean, he was a megastar. I mean, he was in tears. The crowd
he was crying.
All he had to, it was crazy. And so, you have this time pressure for them. And then the next thing is you have international media, local media, national media, social media. And so to try and get drivers time is near on impossible.
Yeah. You go through that whole list, and then you can go, and then do you want to come on the podcast?
And they're like, actually, do you know what? I just did the Chinese Grand Prix. I'm about to go to Bali for a week. No, with my hot girlfriend. No. And, you got to remember, these are super rich kids.
Right.
They're making so much money. They don't actually have that much time to spend it.
How much does a Formula One driver make now? Like you've got 10 teams of 2, so there's 20 drivers.
20 drivers. The range is it's like all sports. Not everyone is
like basketball.
It's like basketball. Yeah. Not everyone is,
What's the range? Would it be like
from
3 million to 30
million to 8 million?
Okay. So that's still,
max 80. I mean, it's very hard to put a price on what estimation on what Lance Stroll will make. I mean, I don't even know if he probably gets paid by the team. It's his dad's team. I mean, he's so rich anyway. But I'm sure he has a stipend, But
what's a stipend?
Like his dad saying, yeah, you can do Formula One, and I'll give you, 100. It might be $1 million a race. It might be a 10 grand a race. I mean, I don't know. Okay, but they're just rich. I mean, there are some incredible drivers in the middle that, Alonso and even Bottas wouldn't keep going for under 15, 20 million a year. And I think Lando is on 15 now, which is good, but he owes it. His dad lent McLaren 62 million pounds.
Paying family
so he's
money
kind
off.
Of paying. I think he's on a stipend until he clears the debt.
Yeah. Formula One now in the US, it seems to be getting bigger and bigger every year. Like it's I don't know. I get the vibe. It's marketing wise, it almost seems bigger than NASCAR sometimes. Is it?
I don't think anything domestically can have that sort of market penetration that NASCAR does, because it's
ingrained
decades
history.
long,
Yeah.
ingrained. But from a commercial point of view, the rise of Formula One has been spectacular. If you go back 8 years, if you were a Formula One fan, it was a bit of a closet thing.
Yeah.
It's like saying, "Oh, I'm into curling."
I like Formula One as well.
You know, what do you like? I love curling. Oh, you do? What's that? You got to be into it to know it.
Yeah.
And so there was, a lot of fans, but again, sort of under the radar.
Right.
There are a lot of fans who were teenagers in their 20s, in the late 60s, 70s, would have remembered Watkins Glen Grand Prix, Long Beach Formula One. I mean, some pretty spectacular races with the Fittipaldis, Andrettis, the big names.
Mm-hmm.
That created a legacy that stuck for a long time. But thanks to Drive to Survive, Liberty Media Group, when they bought Formula One,
so Bernie Ecclestone pretty much was Formula One, right? He built Formula One into this amazing brand, worldwide recognized. So a big company like Liberty, which is a big media company, were they after it, or did someone say like, "Oh, you should maybe go after this"? Like, did they have a plan, or
They definitely had a plan. I mean, I think Formula One was the biggest, the holy grail of what they could go after. I mean, there aren't many truly global sports.
Right.
Soccer, we can't buy all the teams, right?
Right.
But to be the rights holder to Formula One and do what they did, they approached it in a way that had never been done. Bernie kept everything close to his chest. He made a lot of people very rich, and including himself.
Yeah.
Billions. But it was always a little like a dictatorship, which does work, by the way, in a lot of things. But it was time to move on from that. And Liberty opened up the doors by especially allowing Drive to Survive to exist. And in year one, a lot of the teams didn't want to be part of it.
I know. I think at the time, Mercedes was the winning.
No,
you didn't see like Lewis Hamilton in the first one or anything.
And then they realized the power of it as someone just said to me, it just opened up the fact that you understood who the midfield guys were.
Yeah.
You understood the heartbreak at the back for a Haas or an Alpine. It was just really good. Even for me, who's been around it my whole life. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't. That's really cool. So I think it peeled back the layers and made people invested. And racing hasn't done traditionally a great job of that. Sports cars, IMSA, all the other sports types of racing. Everyone focuses too much on the car and says the car's the star.
Yeah.
Actually, you don't cry and scream about the car. You do that about people. And that's what happened. So, 3 Formula One races in North America is unbelievable. And we have one in Canada. So, it's right here. And Miami's coming up in 2 weeks. That was a huge success. Austin is still the racetrack that I tell people, if, I had a father and son reach out on Instagram a couple of weeks ago.
Go to that.
Hey, listen, I want to go to Vegas or Miami. I went, do you know what? If you're going with your kid, go to Austin. You can have a cheeseburger, hot dog, sit on the grass, watch race cars. It's
probably a lot cheaper. Like a cheeseburger and hot dog here is like probably $100 or $200 or something.
It is, but
in Vegas.
But for the right audience, the Vegas race blew up. It was amazing. Everything. I was such a big part of it here. The whole show was a big part of it, and
the show is the birth of because there's only been one race.
Yeah.
The whole lead up to it was huge.
It was huge, and
the building of it.
The building of it, the pain in the ass it was for the locals.
There's 2 stories, isn't there? There's everyone that was looking forward to it, and everyone that lived here that was complaining about it.
Like everything, when the check clears, and on reflection, it was a huge success.
Yeah.
This year will be a lot better because, they have the fiber laid under the concrete. They have the timing loops in the asphalt. They have the holes for the poles, and they know what to do. So it'll be very interesting to see how quickly they set up this year. But the Vegas race was, just being here at the Wynn, it was like the epicenter
It's crowded on a weekday now.
Crowded on a weekday. Can you
imagine?
like,
no, I can't. It'd be ridiculous. You have to move out. Sometimes like just going through the Wynn is like walking down like New York Street or something. You're having to move out the way all the time.
Yeah.
It reminds me
of what conference is in. But the conference that week was Formula One. Although, believe it or not, they had a massive tech group in here on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before the Grand Prix, because that had been booked 3 years before.
Oh, wow.
So they had to clear these conference guys, walking around with their little name tags going,
can you get out of the way, please?
What the hell is going on here? So they cleared out. But it was astounding. And that Thursday night was so shocking because I was actually...
Is that when the cars were allowed on the track?
It was when cars were allowed. Great anticipation. No one going out on track till like 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And
it's all late.
We're there, and I was actually hosting the Las Vegas Visitor and Convention Authorities suite, and great setup outside of Turn 1. All these, Wayne Newton sitting there. All these people. It's pretty cool. I think he was alive, but he was just there. And geez, man, when Carlos Sainz hit the manhole cover.
I was going to bring that up. You brought it up.
Bad bottom of the car off, and then it stopped.
Where did it go? Like it got
so
sucked
what happens
up.
Is
and then...
it's standard protocol, obviously, to weld manhole covers on. Ever since Long Beach, Detroit Grand Prix, we've had manhole covers pop up.
Was it one they just missed?
No, the sleeve that the manhole was in, the drain was in. So, if you looked at it, it was...
like the pipe that holds
So imagine
the
it's the sleeve that had the lid on it, the whole bloody thing lifted up.
Like a baked bean can with a lid. It was basically like the whole thing came up.
Because a Formula One car is creating, 3,500, 4,000 pounds of downforce.
Where did it go? Hit the bottom?
Sucked it up, hit the bottom, ripped everything off the bottom, and did the whole hybrid system at the back. Did $1 million of damage in one go.
Was it a McLaren?
It was a Ferrari.
Ferrari.
But I don't know if you've ever, when you're in hit a pothole, you go, oh, geez. Well, I tell you, in a racing car, when you hit something, like...
I wonder what the sound would have been like.
I mean, the feeling through his ass up would have been... I've hit things in a racing car, and it's like, oh, my God, like you ran over something.
Yeah.
I bet he changed his regularity for a week, I'm sure. It was not good.
A Formula One car... I haven't been in one. Is it very like a race car? It's not. Is it very hard suspension? You feel everything.
You and I could stand on the front right corner and it wouldn't go down.
Right. But when you're driving it, do you feel every bump?
Every single bump.
It's like a go-kart. Like,
yeah. It has if you think about it, a lot of the suspension comes just from the tire movement.
Yeah.
So that's how stiff it is. So even the sidewalls of the tire flexing give you suspension.
Yeah.
So that's how tight it is. And the downforce pressure of the car at almost 200 miles an hour. And it would have been a big shock. So, and then he goes and gets a penalty for it. They give him a penalty for changing his car.
For the race.
For the main race, yeah. Which is just like insanity. When regulations don't make any sense, you're like, whoa. I mean, your track did it. But all that's behind us. It turned out by Saturday night, when the fireworks went off after the race, it was judged one of the best Grand Prix of the year.
It was amazing. I watched it. It was like an amazing race.
Yeah. Many factors for that.
No one mentioned, I've got to say, sorry for butting in, but no one mentioned how well Lewis Hamilton did in that race.
Yeah.
They didn't even talk about him.
No, I know.
On it, which is really weird.
I think there was a lot to talk about, but there was something that happened that weekend that really they're analyzing right now on how to make racing more competitive.
Okay.
Because the cars are so fast, they break with these carbon brakes so late, so much. The cars are so wide, they're so long. I mean, they're literally like 30% bigger than they were 10 years ago. Makes it very hard to overtake. The tolerances are so small to the delta for someone else to improve. What made this race so good was the track was slippery. So the cars couldn't get traction. They could slide. They would lock up.
So it's more like a racer's race.
Yeah. So it opened it up to a lot of people. So now they're saying Pirelli actually have slipperier tires, which could change the face of the racing in one go. So let's see what they do for next year. So it's entertainment, right? That's all it is. I mean,
is the budgeting, like, didn't they introduce budgeting like you can't go over a certain amount of money?
Yeah, which
And how do they do that? Because what if someone's getting paid 10 million for their job? Does that go into the 50 million? Or is it just parts?
Yeah, the top 2 people on the payroll don't count.
Okay.
So your top driver, Max, is not under the budget cap.
Yeah.
Nor is Adrian Newey, the head designer.
So is what is the cap?
I actually don't know. I don't. Is it like 180 million or something, or let's say around 180, 220? But look at an organization like Mercedes.
Yeah.
What if engine development on the hybrid systems being done by the road car group, and just something they develop happens to benefit you over here? There's so many ways of hiding it, right?
Yeah.
And
creative accounting.
Just very creative, and every single one of them does it.
Yeah.
So some cleverer than others, but the bigger teams still have more money in every way than the smaller teams.
Yeah. Does it still go like from front to back? That is the money as well. Because like Haas, when they came in, I think they've done really good. Quite impressed with how well they've done.
Yeah, they've done really good at moments ever since they got rid of Gunter Steiner, who was the star of Drive to Survive, actually, but a really crappy team manager. They've improved, and I think they're a little bit more methodical. There's 10 teams, as you say.
Yeah.
You've got Red Bull, then you've got 2 or 3 teams fighting for, the next 6 cars, and then it drops down, but to get a Formula 1 point is worth tens of millions of dollars to the
crazy.
team. Because of travel, they get in the travel fund more. So when you see them fighting for a point, it's not just to say I finished 10th. It economically has a huge impact.
Politically, just going off from where I'm thinking, so what's happening with Andretti now, and wanting to try and create 11th row.
Yeah.
The bigger teams are just reading this little Google things, hearing podcasts and stuff. The bigger teams don't want that because it's going to prorate the money down.
They don't want to split the pie.
Yeah, and it could come to if there's another team, that some teams won't be profitable and stuff like that. Are teams profitable anyway? Are they now profitable?
Yeah, they're profitable.
Yeah. Because each team now is almost like an NBA team, almost like a team could be worth $1 billion or something now. And you've got investors coming in, multiple investors
Ryan Reynolds and all these people coming in to get
What's the team that they've invested in?
That was Alpine.
Okay.
I think. But the whole thing with the economics of Formula 1 bringing in an 11th team, which would be 2 cars, is if they come in, especially opening up even more the American market, let's just say Andretti would be bringing Cadillac. I mean, that's a huge brand, the Andretti name. And
it's crazy, just the story, where they are at Silverstone, and how many people are involved. They've already been turned down or something, and they've got 150 people working, and they're in Silverstone in a massive place. And you've got the American side, and they're going to have to, I don't know what year they could come in, and they got the team saying, we don't want you to come in. How do you think that's going to end up? I mean, that's good story stuff, right, as well?
Yeah. I think in the end they'll get in.
Do you think that would be part of Drive to Survive, their story?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I bet it will.
I'll
I
bring
think
in the
the
drama.
end, I mean, what a slap in the face to the American market. So they're saying from Formula 1, they're saying to America, we're going to take all your money. We got 3 races. We're going to put hundreds of millions of dollars of your sponsorship and the hard-earned money to come to our races. Oh, you want your most famous racing driver to come in, and his son, who also races in Formula 1, to come in? No, because you don't have the credibility. It's like going that. I mean, that's just absolute.
Is that
in
FIA?
A way,
is that FIA? Who's making decision?
Formula 1 management.
Formula 1
FIA approved it.
And Liberty Media, are they part of the management, or is yeah?
I think you're going to see it be changed at some point. There is a dangerous gray area in that Red Bull obviously have 4 cars. Red Bull have RB, Visa, Cash App, Racing, whatever it is, and
they supply engines for another team.
And yeah, especially with all that Christian Horner, scandal that went on, and there were things. What if Red Bull pulled out? That's 4 cars. And suddenly they would not be delivering on their agreement with the tracks.
Right.
So suddenly Formula 1 would be in default and of all their contracts. So, I mean, that's not about to happen, but it gives one team a lot of power, doesn't it? So adding an 11th team would actually insure against that kind of stuff. So let's see. I mean, why not have 24, 26 cars?
I was going to say 24 because then there were the stories like just looking on like Audi wanted to come in or Porsche want to come in or whatever. And you're going, well, there's got to be 2 teams, so 4 new drivers. Yeah. It's got to come in.
There's no reason you shouldn't. You should definitely have more cars than not adding more races. We don't need more races.
I think anything under 20, you start losing the vibe of racing.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think like adding 2 more cars, 4 more cars makes it actually more dangerous as well?
No, nothing.
No? There's enough space out there. Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, we do it in other forms of racing. NASCAR, obviously, very different, 36 cars. But Formula One, I think there are so many young, talented drivers. There's so much money around. I think it would be for Formula One. I think, but $1 still hard fought for. Like Zach Brown, who's coming on my show in a minute.
Okay, don't show off.
CEO of McLaren. He's the ultimate sponsor guy. Yeah, I mean, as in that's how he made his money. He was a racing driver that then created this global sponsorship event brand, which he sold for a lot of money. And McLaren have more sponsors than anyone.
Yeah,
and he does it right. I mean, he really does. Bringing them in when they're small. Getting them hooked is like a drug dealer, and then you get to a race, you see all the famous people, and you suddenly you might be a head of a little tech group or something. It's not very sexy, and suddenly you're at a Formula One race.
Yeah.
Next thing is you're opening up the checkbook. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, and McLaren, they're still headquartered. They're in Woking.
Yeah. It's also about the heritage of all these teams. We look at Williams now and you go, oh my God, what a bloody disaster. But they weren't.
Like Frank Williams was like
Damon Hill, Ayrton Senna. Obviously, Ayrton died in the Williams, but just incredible dynasty that was there, and they're just off the boil. And you've got, obviously Alpine. That the evolutions of an old team. But Red Bull was Paul Stewart Racing. That was Stewart Grand Prix originally with Ford. So, the franchises, if you like, the teams do go back a long way.
I like the Mercedes story as well. Like how Mercedes bought the team.
Oh, yeah.
That whole season before they bought it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, having Lewis there, Lewis is a 8-time champion. He knows how to win races.
Do you think he should have been like, do you think, like that one season where he, lost it on that one corner? Well, can you give a take on that? Because I was going, oh, scandal, like no way. I was going crazy at the time.
Here's the thing, you racing in the end doesn't matter. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, but in the end, it's just young guys behind a steering wheel.
Yeah,
same way they
2 brothers on a go-kart.
Same way they were doing go-karts.
Right.
If it was Max behind him in a go-kart, last lap of the World Championships, your Max's guy was sharper. He read the situation. His team, he was like, go! Boom, he did it. And Lewis was like, what the hell just happened? I just lost the World Championship.
Yeah.
It was.
Do you think because some races block and stuff, like I don't know, like Lewis's racing style from go-karts and everything, but like he could have blocked if he thought about it at the time.
He just didn't think. He was just caught on the back foot.
Yeah.
But I think that was the true indicator of how edgy Red Bull are, how edgy his GP, which is Max's engineer, the way Christian Horner. They even now. Max will just rattle off fastest lap on the last lap.
Yeah.
Just because they're good. They're so confident. So they redefine the sport for sure.
What's happened to like Mercedes?
It's not money. They have a lot of money. They have 2 great drivers. I think you're going to see them. I think you're going to see them come back. I think the car's just in a vacuum between where it needs to be.
Because it's almost like not just like falling back to 3rd and 4th. It's almost like they could almost be struggling to be top 10 at the moment.
And they were,
the last
they were
race.
at the weekend. But Russell got up there in the end. But
is it hard for someone? Is it hard to talk about? Is it like something that like you shouldn't talk about kind of thing. Because I guess like all these teams, there's so much money involved and stuff, and there's only 10 teams. There's no one out there like dissing teams. You know, it's all promoting the sport and everything. But it was just a major. It was a major shift. This car that's running now is it the same car and rules when you had the porpoising thing happen?
Yeah, I mean,
so they're all having to realign things.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much data, so much technology, brilliant minds, engineering minds, and they had that porpoising at the end of the straight. No one knew what the hell was going on.
I didn't even know what porpoising was.
Yeah, the driver's eyes are crossed sideways. Yeah, it was just really tough for them to deal with. And, you know, again, brilliant minds, brilliant people. They must be going back at the end of the weekend going, what the hell have we got going on here? Yeah. Mercedes will come back. It might not be this year. And remember, Lewis Hamilton, I'm still a believer that we saw on Saturday. He was second in the sprint race and on the podium. I mean, he can still do it. Does he? I still believe he has the fight. Like, look at Alonso. I mean, he's 42 years old and fighting like crazy. So give the right cars to these legends, you'll see them win races.
I think things are going to go like kind of crazy. You know, Lewis moving to Ferrari. That's like Hollywood type.
Hollywood stuff.
It's already being written now. And like, oh, you think this is going to happen? You think that's going to... It's because I guess for UK, us both being from the UK, Lewis is actually royalty, right?
Yeah, well, he's a sir now.
Yeah, he's a sir.
Yeah.
But going to Ferrari... I wonder, like, the things they said, because the rule change in 26, right?
Yeah.
So part of him having meetings with Ferrari is seeing what they're doing for 26, right?
He's about to get, I know what you're going to say. He's about to get shut out of the secret room at Mercedes. You know what I mean? When they're talking about what's happening for next year's car.
Yeah.
There's going to be a divergence coming up where Lewis will not be privy to the development of the car. George Russell will, because you can't take all that IP with you to the next team. Ferrari, I mean, it's $100 million deal apparently a year, reputedly, and Lewis to wear the red race suit is what every driver really wants.
Can you imagine the merch sales?
No, that's what they're thinking about. It's ridiculous.
It's like I think it's going to be like a 10x type deal.
He's going to, and we're going to see him come alive there. I think. I mean, it's not going to be super easy. I hope so too.
Just want him to be competitive.
Yeah. I want him to be competitive at the end of his career. But let's just say we get 2 or 3 more good years.
Yeah.
It would be really fun. I mean, Lewis is great for the sport. When I hosted the red carpet here, you know, he kind of came by looking like the Black Knight, you know, Dark Knight. You know, he had a fur, his shirt's undone down to here. He's got his tattoos. He's wearing a black fur shawl. I'm like, good. And no one else is like that.
It's like a UFC fighter, like
he is
going all out.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good.
The kind of going full circle, like you're a media now, but you're from a racing family too. Like your father used to race, you used to race. How much you like? Would most of your work be centered around Formula One? Are you still going to multiple? Like you going to smaller races? Like you go back to the UK to club races? That's not part of your life, and you didn't do that anyway.
No, not really. I mean, Formula One with Drive To Wynn is the biggest thing. Going to all these amazing car concours. I work with Haggerty a lot. Haggerty, the big, one of the biggest media insurance companies in our world, and I host a lot of their events, and so I'm a big part of the sort of the ecosystem, the lifestyle ecosystem of cars. And I love the IMSA series. I did that, raced that successfully a long time. So did Tommy, my partner. Business partner, and then we had a show there. I mean, I love it. I love it all. I never did anything with IndyCar, but they're on fire. Yeah. So it's a really great thing. Talking about it, having got paid to go around in circles, and now talking about people going around in circles.
Do you like that part?
That.
You do?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. And when you get the chance to do live TV, and this is live, and if I say the wrong way, if I say then I'm fired. I love that. Yeah. If you're not in danger of getting fired in a broadcast, you're not really doing it well. That's what they say.
Do you when you're doing live, have you ever made that mistake or been real close,
no, but
getting excited?
I've been real close, and with the British accent,
right.
you can get away with saying stuff. Get away with saying stuff that no one else can, and that's really funny.
That's true.
But I've had people I've interviewed just in the middle of the night at Sebring, they've just won the race, and Wayne Taylor just swore off the top of his head as he's so excited, and I was just like, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, he has just driven for 12 hours. So yeah, it was great.
Awesome. What's your prediction for F1 Vegas this year? Like, do you think it's going to be like 2 times bigger, or could it not?
Yeah. I think it's going to settle down on one side and blow up on the other, because it's just people now, the prices are going to be better to come here. The Wynn on their website, if you go there, it tells you all about
it's not crazy
the packages. It's starting to get better. Hopefully more ordinary people can come as well.
Yeah.
But they sold out every VIP package they could. And as I said, go to the Wynn website and it'll tell you how to do it.
I'm looking forward to it. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for making that very long journey.
Yeah, long journey from the reception to here. All right, buddy.
All right, cheers. Thanks a lot.
Follow us on all socials at Battle Approved. That's at Battle Approved.